Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent Nintendo / gaming video for this week, or My 2 Cent and all, for the week of September 27th to October 3rd, where I take a look at a couple of stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion of them. And we have 5 stories to cover for this week, including CD Project Red going back on a promise they made in regards of crunch. Some interesting, I think, some new information that has come out in regards of Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity.to. An issue in regarding the PS5 in terms of pre-orders in some places that could be an issue, or can I say, in some degree, could be an issue for when the system finally launches, though, in November. One of the creators, the creator of Rayman and all, who left Ubisoft, now there may be some reasons why he might have left, and sort of come out and has sort of responded to some of the allegations that have been leveled towards him. And of course, the on-rail shooter / fan surface GalGun, the first one, is somehow making its way over to not only the Xbox but also the Nintendo Switch as well. But before we get started, we'll take a look at what is basically the quick My 2 Cents part. Stories that somewhat caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details though. The first one is that it turns out that Torchlight 3 will launch on October 13th. However, even though the game is coming to the Nintendo Switch, supposedly the Switch version will come a little bit later. So that is kind of a little bit unfortunate that for those who are thinking of picking up the Switch version, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, as the game will not hit its October 13th release date as the other versions would. We also learned that it turns out to be that for the upcoming game Spider-Man Miles Morales, I think one of the versions that will have the original PS4 Spider-Man game, which is, in my opinion, probably the best Spider-Man game since Spider-Man 2, which that was released back in 2004, though. It looks like you could take your transfer save data and transfer that over to the PS5 version, which, assuming this is true, this is certainly nice. So that certainly is a nice feature and all that stuff. We've been hearing some issues in regards of smart delivery and all. We've heard while some games are going to be making their way over, others maybe not as much, to the point of where they're going to charge a fee whatsoever, where we're hearing companies like CD Project Red will just do it for free and all that stuff. So it's sort of an odd situation though. We also learned that one of the free download games, the Jump Rope Challenge for the Nintendo Switch, originally was supposed to expire this week, but have decided to keep it up and stay for free until further notice, which is kind of interesting because this was a sort of a limited run though, and the fact that they decided to change their mind is sort of interesting because it makes you kind of wonder, could we see the same thing with, say, the Super Mario 3D All-Stars, which, as originally their original plan was supposedly have it run until March 2021, but with Super Mario 3D All-Star doing very, very well. I thought I said run, I meant to say 3D All-Star. So since that's doing very well, it makes you kind of wonder, is Nintendo going to change their mind on that and instead not have it as a limited run or anything like that? We'll have to wait and see on that one. We also learned that there is an update for the Switch version of Crisis Remastered, which hopefully this will maybe address some issues and all that stuff. I did a review of the game. I thought it wasn't bad in terms of some of the stuff. I definitely got a little bit of like that old school first-person shooter vibe. But from a technical standpoint, there were some hurdles, including several times when the game booted me out and all that stuff. So, long story short, in terms of Crisis on Switch, yes, Switch can run Crisis, but it's not 100% perfect, to be exact. We also learned that Ori 1 and 2, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which just recently got released on the Nintendo Switch, will be getting a physical version for the Switch that is set for this December, which is certainly nice. I'm looking forward to seeing a physical version come to the Nintendo Switch. We also learned that supposedly a Brazilian developer is putting out a game that's their take on Grand Theft Auto called 171, and they are planning to bring it to the Nintendo Switch. Right now, it's still in development, and supposedly it's early access and all. I would say, based on the footage that they've shown so far, It sounds promising though, but I still have to wait and see if it really becomes a true Grand Theft Auto style game, especially if they're planning to bring it to Nintendo Switch. And it does make you kind of wonder, why isn't Rockstar bringing over, like, say, Grand Theft Auto 5 or even Grand Theft Auto 4 to the Nintendo Switch, for crying out loud. We also learned that EA has pulled an ad that they ran on supposedly a magazine aiming towards kids. It was supposedly a FIFA ad that also mentioned microtransaction, and this has caused some backlash in a way. And honestly, I think EA deserves the backlash, and we've seen microtransactions come under the radar, especially after we've seen a lot of companies have pulled this stunt with the microtransactions. So kind of glad that they pulled the ad, but I also think that EA deserves the backlash and all that stuff. And we also learned that the new fighter for Super Smash Bros. Turns out to be Steve from Minecraft and all that stuff. Seeing the video of him on Super Smash Bros., maybe it's me, but he just seems a little bit off in a way. And maybe I'm missing something and all that stuff. I mean, compared to what Banjo-Kazooie, this one just seems a bit odd and all. But he's the new fighter and all that stuff. We'll have to wait and see how. We'll see. It's interesting to see how people react to that and all that stuff. And since we have Steve from Minecraft, which is owned by Microsoft, and Banjo-Kazooie, which owns the rights to, which Microsoft owns the rights to Banjo-Kazooie, it does make you kind of wonder to a certain degree. Could we see something like, say, Master Chief make its way onto Super Smash Bros.? I mean, it's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it certainly is a possibility, considering that Microsoft and Nintendo have been kind of cozying up a bit in some areas, though. And last but not least, and this is a movie-related one, not a video game-related one, it turns out this was filmed in secrecy, and that is the sequel to the 2004 movie Borat, Cultural Learning for the Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan, is getting an actual sequel. I saw the first one when it came out in theaters, and it was funny as hell and all that stuff. There was a lot of, I mean, yes, there was a lot of stuff in it that was just funny. Some of it I could see why some people may view it as offensive, such as the scene where I think Borat and another person were throwing money at cockroaches, thinking they were like the Jews and all that stuff. And for the record, I'm Jewish, Reformed Judaism, but Jewish nevertheless, and even I thought that scene was funny as hell. So it is sort of interesting that this is happening, though, but at the same time, I wonder if it's going to be as good as the first one, or is it just going to be bad or anything like that. So we'll have to wait and see. It's premiering this month on Amazon Prime, or Amazon Instant Video to be exact, and I'm kind of curious about this one. I mean, I enjoyed Borat, the first one, though. Wasn't really a big fan of Bruno. The Dictator was okay, but not 100% perfect, though. So I'm hoping this one is good, to be exact. So we'll find out for certain if the sequel, Borat 2, turns out to be as good as the original one, or if it's one of those kind of situations where the first one was better or anything like that. Okay, with the quick My 2 Cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story. And this one has to do with the game GalGun, particularly the first one being dubbed GalGun Return, though. Now, for those who are not familiar with that one, GalGun was basically a on-rail shooter, basically fan service on-rail shooter. Think kind of like House of the Dead, but replace all the creatures and all with waifus and anime schoolgirls and all that stuff. I mean, when I first saw this game shown at a Tokyo Game Show, I think it may have been 2006 and all that, or like that stuff, when it was basically shown for the Xbox 360, my immediate reaction at the time was that, okay, this has to be one of those only in Japan, will never see the light of day in the West. And that was my original intention, though. Then again, I thought about the same thing with, say, Serene Kagura as well. I thought that one was going to be one of those only in Japan, never see the light of day here in the West. Obviously, that didn't turn out to be true. When that game came over, the Serene Kagura series started to come over to the West, it did make me kind of wonder, could we see GalGun make its way over? And, well, it did. It did make its way over to the West. We did get it in the term of basically GalGun Double Piece, which made its way over to the PS4 and the PS Vita. I believe that was the second entry or something like that, though. And then we got GalGun 2, which not only made its way to the PS4, but also made its way to the Nintendo Switch as well, and not to mention it also made its way to the VR. But the series was kind of thrown into limbo a little bit, mostly because Sony recently changed some of their policies in terms of certain content or certain games being put on their system. And while I understand that that is Sony's decision, not everyone was pleased with it. It got to the point where even the creator of Serene Kagura quit just before, I believe, that Serene Kagura pinball game was released. It made its way over to the Nintendo Switch. So it sort of raised the question of whether that series will continue or not. Well, apparently it seems that we finally have an answer to that, and it looks like Indie Create will continue the series, but not on the PS4 or anything like that. In an article from Nintendo Life, it reads that, quote, P-Cube, that's the name, P-Cube, and Indie Creates are celebrating the 10th birthday of GalGun series by remastering the game that started it all. GalGun Returns will hit the Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and Steam in 2021, with Nintendo release getting both a digital and a physical edition. The original game hit the Xbox 360 in 2011. A PS3 version arrived the following year. I believe that one supported the PlayStation Move, to be exact, but never left its native Japan. The sequel, GalGun Double Peace, did get a worldwide release on PlayStation, on PS4 and PS Vita, while a second sequel, confusingly called GalGun 2, despite technically being the fourth game in the series, we also got GalGun VR, made its way to the Switch in 2018. GalGun Returns once again places you in the shoes of a young man who suddenly becomes a hit with the opposite sex and must fend off different girls and all stuff with pheromone shots while trying to secure the affection of one of the main protagonists. It's best described as a healthy mix of shooting, action, and dating sim. They should have mentioned fan service, because that's pretty much what it is. It's pretty much fan service, though. The game's Doki Doki mode showcase the girl's best assets from all angles, and is active by building a gouge under a time limit, a process which brings the ladies in the state of Ethiopia, EUPHOORIA, and bags you a special award. This updated version improves the visuals, adds a new CG sequence, and includes all previous release DLCs, which is nice, considering that Indie Creates came under fire with basically some of their DLCs, which I believe there was one for Double Peace that was like almost $100 to just, and it was just basically see-through. It was just like an X-ray and all that stuff. It was kind of ridiculous in a way. Anyway, previous release DLCs from the get-go. Oh, and the game includes a grand total of 423 types of panties for you to discover. So, it's very interesting that we are living at a time when Nintendo would be okay with this and Sony isn't, though, and all that stuff. So it's just weird to see the fact that the roles have kind of reversed in a way, though. And it's kind of interesting that Nintendo is now a bit more open in terms of letting third-party developers develop whatever game they want, as long as it stays within the as long as it stays within the rating system. In case in the US, we have the ESRB, to be exact, though. And I think it is kind of ridiculous that Sony has sort of changed this policy. As much as I like Sony and all that stuff, I think it's kind of dumb and all that stuff. I mean, I could say the same thing about Cyberpunk 2077 in a way, though. I don't have a problem with the game, the developers making a game that has swearing, violence, sex, or nudity, or anything like that. As long as it stays within the rating system, as long as it's that's fine. If that's the kind of game a developer wants to make, it's like, okay. I understand it won't appeal to everybody, and that's understandable. Everyone has their own preference or taste. If it's not the kind of game that interests you, fine. If it is, that's fine. It's just as long as it stays within the rating system. So I do think it's as much as I like Sony, as much as I like the PlayStation brand, I do think it's kind of ridiculous that they kind of changed this policy and all, where compared to Nintendo, which has now sort of more opened up a little bit and has figured, you know what? As long as it stays within the rating system, we're not going to complain about what kind of game you're making and all that stuff. And I think that is definitely a good thing. As to whether or not this game will appeal to anybody, again, it's going to depend on one's preference and taste. I played Double Peace. I played GalGun 2. I might try this. I know some people will call me a pervert and all that stuff, but I would be willing to try it. So overall, if you missed out on the first one and all that stuff, though, it looks like it's coming to Steam, Xbox One, and the Nintendo Switch and all that stuff. Whether that will appeal to whether this game will appeal to anybody or not, that's going to be up to you to decide on that stuff. And the fact that it's not coming to the PlayStation system, you know, the PS4 and all, is on one hand kind of surprising, but on the other hand isn't, considering Sony changed some of their policies, which, like I said before, I understand Sony has the right to do what they want to do, but I do think it's kind of ridiculous, as I'm a firm believer that as long as it stays within the rating system, then if that's the kind of game the developers want to make, that's the kind of game they want to make, and consumers like you out there can ultimately make the decision whether or not you are going to buy this game or not. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with the creator of Rayman, who recently retired from Ubisoft, but there may be more to his retirement than what may have been reported. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, I want to talk about Ubisoft, particularly one of the developers, Michel Ancel, Michel Ancel, or it's mostly referred to as the guy who helped created, you know, the Rayman series and so forth. Now, Ubisoft in general has been under fire recently, though, as there have been several reports ranging from work conditions, from how things were going on in Ubisoft, to how people are treated, to allegations of maybe inappropriate behavior and all being done there, leading to some people resigning and all. This prompted the CEO of Ubisoft sort of doing a response saying that they could do better and all that stuff. Whether that is true or not, whether this is just PR spin or they actually change or not, remains to be seen, to be exact. However, one of the creators, one of the folks who worked at Ubisoft, the creator of Rayman, retired from the company, though, and supposedly their reason was they were exhausted and tired and wanted to pursue other things and all that stuff, which would seem okay, which would make sense for a lot of people. But now there seems to be a report coming out that may have not been the case and all, and that there's maybe more to it than what may be seen. In an article, again, from Nintendo Life, again, links are in the description if you want to check it out, it reads that the creator Rayman responds to accusation of toxic leadership during his time at Ubisoft. The creator of Rayman recently announced his departure not just from Ubisoft, but from the entire video game industry, and started that his next venture will be the Wildlife Sanctuary, though. The dust had barely settled on this massive announcement when French newspaper Liberation, Liberation, issued a report which accused the designer of toxic leadership during his time with the company. According to Kotaku, many of the complaints made during this investigation are directly related to the development of Beyond Good and Evil 2, which that game has pretty much disappeared off the radar, and many believe that game has been pretty much cancelled, although Ubisoft has not really said anything at this time. Although, then again, this kind of saw the situation with Steep that was originally supposed to come to Nintendo Switch, then that disappeared off the radar, and then eventually it was later learned that the game was quietly cancelled without, I think, without Ubisoft even saying anything, though. Anyway, according to basically the epic sequel that left behind, the creator Rayman left behind following his departure from Ubisoft. The game protracted development is in reports claiming partially down to the creator Rayman's poor management and repeated change to the scope of the project, which has allegedly taken its toll on staff, resulted in absence due to stress. According to one source, though, it reads that the creator Rayman needed the ideas to be his. He often preferred to improving improvising something of his own rather than listen to a team and look at the structure work we've done at his request. He is able to explain that you are a genius, that your idea is great, and then he could take you apart in the meeting by saying that you are a quote piece of shit and that your work is worthless and not talk to you for a month. Supposedly he did basically took to Instagram to contest the report by Kotaku, basically saying, quote, take few people with rage and jealous and let them speak in the name of 100. Publish the news fast so that it combines with sexual harassment from other news at Ubisoft. I this serious. Is this what you expect from a national newspaper? I will fight for the truth because such accusations are a shame. I worked hard on every of my projects and always had respect for the team. The accusation are wrong. I left video games because I was exhausted. This is not a way for me to escape any responsibility. Like many other people, I participated in the independent investigation because I still believe in truth and justice. Last week, Ubisoft appears to tease a new gaming ongoing Rayman series, which the creator created 25 years ago, but then deleted the confusing post. The creator, Rayman, posted up a piece of fan art on his Instagram account, which shows Rayman talking to his friends, basically saying, have you ever worked with Michel Ancel? It says, you know, Michel Ancel, and the other person says, is this a good guy, though? This, to me, sounds very much like a sort of like, it comes off as basically one of those he says, she says kind of a situation, though. And given the reports that have come out lately about Ubisoft, including the issues of sexual harassment and so forth, this report does somewhat sound believable, though. Nevertheless, I do believe in all you're innocent until proven guilty, and I do want to think that there should be an independent investigation to verify if this information is 100% correct. And if assuming this information is correct, if this information is true, then yeah, it doesn't look great on him and all that stuff. And it is possible Ubisoft may have wanted to let him go before the situation got any worse or anything like that. Again, I don't know if that is true or not, so we'll have to wait and see. But overall, I have to say this adds another bad situation for Ubisoft that is facing, well, let's just say a lot of internal problems as of lately, though. And as for Beyond Good and Evil 2, you know, like I said before, I would not be shocked if I hear that the game got quietly canceled or anything like that. Again, I don't know if that will happen, but it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with the PlayStation 5, the PS5 to be exact. And apparently it seems as though the pre-order situation for the PS5 is just getting very, very odd, and it's making things, looks like it's making things more complicated than it is. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at the pre-order situation in regards of the PS5 or PlayStation 5, though. So in regards to the pre-order situation between the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and S, though, both obviously didn't turn out as well for a lot of people and all that stuff. Although, to me, looking at both of those situations, I would say Microsoft, I felt, did a somewhat better job. I'm not saying that it was 100% perfect. There's no doubt people still had a hard time getting the Xbox Series X, though. But I will say they somewhat handled it better than Sony did in some areas, though. Not to mention, I felt like you had a better shot getting an Xbox Series S than you did with an X, though. The PS5 situation, on the other hand, I won't deny, was a complete mess, though. Following their presentation and what they showed off, though, then there were the pre-orders that just started out of nowhere, despite Sony promising that they were going to notify us in advance, and that kind of threw everything in a loop, as people had a hard time to try to basically secure it, though. It got to the point that Sony had to apologize, though, and we got another wave of pre-orders that came in, but even those people had a hard time getting it. I'm still having a hard time even trying to secure a pre-order for a PlayStation 5 and all that stuff. And well, it seems that in regards to the pre-order situation with the PS5, it looks like there's more bad news, though. Particularly, it looks like for those who live near, you know, the British Islands, you know, the UK and Ireland and all that stuff. Because apparently it seems that there may be some places where people may not get their PS5 until sometime in 2021. We don't know if it will be early 2021 or late 2021 to be exact. But anyway, in an article posted on Video Game Chronicles, it reads that GameStop Ireland is telling some PS5 pre-order customers they'll have to wait until 2021, though. It reads that, quote, Ireland GameStop chain has contacted some PS5 pre-order customers to tell them not to expect their console to arrive before 2021. Multiple Video Game Chronicle readers have received notifications from retailers claiming that it recently received confirmation that it won't be able to fulfill your pre-orders until 2021. The message claimed that the delay is due to circumstances out of control and offer the option to remain in the pre-order situation or cancel entirely. The Irish retailer sent a message to customers less than 24 hours after Sony started informing European retailers that the retailers of their PS5 launch day allocations. On Monday, UK's Shop2 claim has received PS5 allocation details from Sony, which meant it will not be able to fulfill its pre-orders. According to the flyer that GameStop basically pointed out to, I think, retailers in Ireland, it reads that, quote, thanks for reserving your place in the Quelle, Q-U-E-U-E, for the PlayStation 5. We know you want to get your hands on the console as soon as possible, but unfortunately, due to circumstances out of our control, we are now got confirmation that we won't be able to fulfill your pre-order until 2021. If you choose to hold your current place in the Quelle, Q-U-E-U-E, it will ensure that you will get the console once they become available in future waves. Once we have any more information, we will let you know when you can expect to receive your console. Alternatively, you are free to cancel your place in the QUEUE at any time by emailing hello@gamestop.ie so that customer care team can process a refund to you on your deposit. We apologize for any inconvenience caused, though. Anyway, continuing on with the article, it said Shop2 has emailed its PS5 pre-order customers to either tell them to their pre-orders is safe for launch or that they won't receive the console in time for the November 19th release date. Amazon has also warned some PS5 pre-order customers that they may not receive their console on the day of release. Sony confirmed the PS5 release date of November 12th in the US, Japan, Canada, Mexico, Australia, and South Korea earlier this month. The rest of the world will get their console a week later on November 19th, including Europe. Multiple retailers sold out of PS5 pre-orders just hours after its launch details were announced on September 16th, despite Sony telling fans that pre-sales for the console will begin the following day. PlayStation essentially apologized for the troubled pre-order launch and promised to release more consoles to retailers immediately. Selected retailers opened a second wave of PS5 pre-orders on September 25th, which also sold out quickly. Further PS5 pre-order stock may yet appear between now and the console's November launch date, but otherwise much of PlayStation's launch inventory appears to have been claimed. Earlier this month, Sony denied it was lowering its PS5 shipment estimate due to alleged production issues. According to Bloomberg, the companies expect to ship 11 million PS5s by March 31st, 2021. Dan Ahmed, H-A-M-A-D, senior analyst at Nico Partners, told VGC he expects supply issues for both PS5 and Xbox Series X this year. While production is ramping up and compound scarce is less of an issue than before. We believe the logistics issues will be a barrier for both platform holders to overcome this holiday, with the impact from COVID-19 leading to long shipment times and shortage on store shelves during the launch period. We expect Sony and Microsoft to utilize air shipment, which will cost more to meet demands this year. So obviously it seems as though those who may have pre-ordered the PS5 and all that stuff, looks like they may end up having to wait until next year to pick it up, which is unfortunate though, which I kind of feel sorry for the customers who put down their money to pre-order and all, but a lot of things have kind of been thrown into the loop. While some of it, of course, is COVID-19 really throwing a lot of it in the loop, some of it came off as really Sony kind of poorly planned this in a way though, and especially with the pre-order situation and all that stuff. It'll be interesting to see if we start seeing maybe other retailers from other countries. Right now it seems to be only Ireland and the UK for now, but I wouldn't be surprised if I'm starting to hear other stories from like other retailers doing this, that those customers may not get their PS5 until sometime next year and all that stuff. So I mean, it's kind of tough though. I mean, I'm still going to try again to see if I could try to secure a PS5 pre-order and all that stuff, but it's becoming very tough to really try to secure one. And even if you do, it looks like there's no guarantee you're going to get your PS5 on launch date. So overall, very tough situation with the PS5 right now, especially in regards to the whole pre-order situations though. It's same thing kind of with Microsoft with the Xbox Series X and S, although I will say, like I said before, I think Microsoft somewhat did a better job than, say, what Sony did in regards of the PS5 pre-order situation. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4, and this one has to do with supposedly some more information in regards of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, though, the prequel to Breath of the Wild, and supposedly a new entry in the Hyrule Warriors series, though. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My True Cent video, and for this one I want to take a look at some interesting information that has come out in regards of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. So now most of you all know, this was kind of a surprise for a lot of Nintendo fans that did not know, well, let's just say it kind of surprised a lot of Nintendo fans, especially considering that the fact that they were bringing basically a prequel to Breath of the Wild. While we all know that the sequel to Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is in the work, and some rumors are pointing out it might be called Breath of Evil and all that stuff, and we still don't know when the game will come out and all that stuff though. It was very interesting to see that both Nintendo and Koei Tecmo would team up again to do actually supposedly another entry in the Hyrule Warriors series, which to me, as far as Warriors games go, that to me is the Nintendo 3 Warriors one, particularly Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors though, are like to me my favorite though. I'm more excited for this one than I am to the upcoming Dynasty Warriors 9, which is also coming to the Nintendo Switch, and I know some people are looking forward to that game, but seriously, how many times can you retell the Romance of the Three Kingdoms story though? Really, how many times can you retell that though? Well, we got some more information about the game that came out during the Tokyo Game Show along with gameplay footage as well. And some of the information came from a site known as Zelda's Dungeon, which basically covers a lot of, Zelda related stuff though. And a couple things have came out from this though. We learned that young Impa, who you may have seen in in Breath of the Wild though, it will be a playable character in the game though. The article mentions that Impa, 100 years younger than she was in Breath of the Wild, was introduced as a playable character. The Sheikah warrior and royal advisor was introduced in a cutscene, and through an excellent gameplay sequence, Impa's moves are resemblant to those of Monk Maj Kosha, I apologize for not saying correctly, from Breath of the Wild's DLC, the Champions Ballard, as well as Sheik from the original Hyrule Warriors and all that stuff. And not to mention, she kind of looks like, I think it was, her name was Paya, you know, one of the characters, basically Impa's, you know, like granddaughter and all that stuff. So it's interesting. She'll be a playable character though. We also learned that there will be a bonus item for those who have basically a copy of, you know, or a save file of Breath of the Wild in your Nintendo Switch. You'll be able to unlock, we gifted with the training sword bonus. So that means you get basically the sword that looks like a training sword and all that. Hopefully that doesn't break or anything like that. We learned that development team aimed to recreate Breath of the pre-Calamity world before Breath of the Wild started. According to the article, it reads that, quote, at the start of the presentation, Koei Tecmo explained that the development team heavily focused on recreating Hyrule Warriors, Hyrule 100 years before the events of Breath of the Wild, and wanted to reflect this in the world design. Through screenshots and today's gameplay footage, we can see how Age of Calamity's visuals and world designs were inherited from both Breath of the Wild and Hyrule Warriors, as it melds, M-E-L-D-S, the visual styles of both games to create its unique world. Essentially, the game combines the Hyrule Warriors formula in the style of Breath of the Wild. Age of Calamity boasts the same open world that we know and love from Breath of the Wild, but in a form that we've never seen before. We get to see the Kingdom of Hyrule as it was before the Great Calamity. From the gameplay footage shown that they showed at Tokyo Game Show, one can see familiar locations from Breath of the Wild. In fact, we see Link leaving from the scarce ground in Central Hyrule. In terms of scaling and position, the game map appears nearly one-to-one with Breath of the Wild's map. And we also learned about basically Koei Tecmo working closely with Nintendo to create the Age of Calamity. The article also said that the presentation also provided a few insight into Age of Calamity's development. According to Koei Tecmo, the team behind the original Hyrule Warriors were not expected to continue the series after development on that game had concluded. In fact, they thought that would be the end of Hyrule Warriors as a whole, as the team was finally able to fulfill the festival theme they were going for. However, the team began working on Age of Calamity when, you know, the Zelda, one of the producers of the Zelda series, EIJIAONUMA himself, then approached the team on the opportunity to create this prequel to Breath of the Wild. According to Koei Tecmo, the main Zelda team provided strict guidelines for development of Age of Calamity to follow. This makes sense considering that the game's story is a companion to the canon Zelda game, though. So some really interesting ideas of what thought process, you know, went through in terms of when they started to develop the game. And judging by the gameplay footage that they showed, though, honestly, I'm more excited to this and picking this one up. I would say, like I said before, I'm more excited to get this over Dynasty Warriors 9 any day, though. The idea that we're going to see an actual prequel of what the world was like before the events of Breath of the Wild is like really exciting, though. And given how well Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors were developed, though, or how those games were handled, this is definitely on my radar. One of my big games for the holidays to pick up for the Nintendo Switch, though. The fact that we're getting basically a trilogy. We're getting Age of Calamity, Breath of the Wild, and then Breath of the Wild 2, or whatever it's going to be called, to be exact. So overall, based on the information that has come out so far in regards of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, especially information from the Tokyo Game Show, certainly my excitement on this game has certainly gone up, and I'm looking forward to picking this up when hopefully it comes out on November 20th for the Nintendo Switch. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 5, and this one has to do with an issue that CD Project Red has ran into, which is an issue in regards of crunch time, and a recent response to a report from Bloomberg from Jason Schreier in regards of the whole issue of crunch time and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fifth and final part of our My 2 Cent video. And this one I want to talk about is in regards of the situation with CD Project Red, with specifically Cyberpunk 2077. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 is probably one of the most ambitious title that a lot of people are looking forward to playing, though. I mean, we've seen videos of the game and all that stuff, some teasers and some ideas of what the game is going to be and all that stuff. And I will say the game does look promising. And given CD Projekt Red's history, especially pushing a lot of anti-consumer, not anti-consumer, pro-consumer positions on a lot of things, I can see it definitely shows that a lot of people are really excited for this title. At the same time, while I definitely want this title to succeed, though, there's always that lingering thing that basically, though, that the title could end up like what we saw with Destiny, where it's overhyped to the point that it may not be as good or may not be as people had hoped for, though. Time will tell when that happens, when the game finally comes out, though, and we'll see if it lives up to people's expectations or not when the game officially comes out in November, though. However, the game has also hit several different issues when it came to development, though. We've learned that originally the game was supposed to come out in April, but was pushed back to originally to September. Then it got later pushed back to November, mostly because of supposedly reports were coming out that they were having issues trying to run the game on a base PS4 and a base Xbox One, though. Another issue that has recently emerged that isn't really sitting well with everybody has to do with the fact of the issue of crunch, where originally they were saying that they wanted to avoid crunch as possible. Now it turns out to be that in this case, just weeks before the game is supposed to come out, though, it turns out they are enforcing crunch after all. In an article from Pure Xbox, though, which is the same site that has done, Push Square and Nintendo Life, it reads the original story before we get to the response that they made was, quote, Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed multiple times, and while the Polish-based developer CD Projekt Red has reassured fans it won't happen again, according to a report by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, who originally worked at Kotaku and is the one who broke the story about the whole situation regarding EA and BioWare's Anthem, which also saw issues of crunch that really, let's just say, that really damaged, did a lot of damage, particularly to Anthem in general, though. But anyway, from the report from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, it means that the team will be required to work overtime leading up to the game's November 19th release. In an email to staff, though, the head of CD Projekt Red supposedly told everyone it was time to fix the many bugs and glitches now that the game has been sent off to Microsoft and Sony for certification. On top of their typical amount of work, one day of the weekend will also be necessary, and this extra work will be paid as required by Polish labor law. The head of CD Projekt Red basically said, it takes upon myself to receive the full backlash for this decision. I know this is in direct opposition to what I said about crunch. It's also in direct opposition to what I personally grew and believe a while back, that crunch should never be the answer, but we've extended all possible means for navigating the situation. This goes against a comment made by the CD Projekt Red's co-chief executive officer last year, saying that CD Projekt Red would avoid crunch, and at the time it was noted how the goal was to make the company more humane location to work. We are known for treating gamers with respect. I actually would like for us to also be known for treating developers with respect. Now, following the Bloomberg report from Jason Schreier, though, CD Projekt Red's head of studio has responded to the Bloomberg report, though, and this is what basically what they had to say, and he's calling this one of the hardest decisions I had to make, though. Quote, these last 6 weeks are the final sprint on a project we've all spent much of our lives on. Sometimes we care for deeply. The majority of the team understands that push, especially in light of the fact that we've just sent the game to certified, and every day brings us visibly closer to ship a game we wanted to be out of. This is one of the hardest decisions I've had to make, but everyone is well compensated for every extra hour they put in. And in recent years, 10% of the annual profit our company generates in 2020 will be split directly among the team. So I'm sort of mixed on this in a way, though. I appreciate the fact that they are doing what they can and they want to treat their employees with respect, which is always a great thing indeed, and all that stuff. And the fact that they are willing to give some of the profits they earned back to the will be split among the teams for this crunch time and all that stuff. I will say that's a very good thing. At the same time, we've seen issues of crunch time and how much that has done some damage to the industry as a whole. I mean, we've seen cases where some people just quit because they are burnt out and all that stuff. And we've also seen cases where even Rockstar's CEO got under fire for saying praising crunch time, only to kind of backtrack to a certain degree. And then there's the issue of Anthem, when the whole debacle of a mess that turned out, especially with crunch time and trying to get the game out, that turned out to be like broken or not finished at best, to the point that it's fallen to the point where they decided to cancel their roadmap to basically tear the game apart to try to fix it, though. And since then, it's pretty much dropped off the radar, and we don't know if EA will ever fix that game or not. Who knows if that game will ever see the light of day again. Maybe it could pull a No Man's Sky, but we'll never know. So this situation, I'm just very mixed. I mean, again, I applaud some things that CD Projekt Red does. They do a lot of pro-consumers response, and I do have a lot of respect for them from doing that, though. But the issue for them to go back on crunch, though, it's possible maybe this was a last resort. I don't know. I'm not in this guy's position or anything like that, though. But I'm still iffy about the situation. So overall, very mixed on this, though. I appreciate the fact that they are going to try to give 10% to split the profits with the staff, especially push for crunch time. But then again, crunch time has been a very big issue for the video game industry as a whole, and this is a problem that I do think the industry seriously needs to address, though, because a lot of people who want to do video games don't want to go into it if this is the kind of pressure they're going to deal with 24/7, and that could be a problem for the industry going forward. So this is a real issue. Crunch time is really an issue that seriously, in my view, seriously does need to be addressed. Okay, this concludes It's My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts that the original GalGun, now titled GalGun Return, is coming to the Steam, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch? Are you looking forward to this game? Did you enjoy the other entries of the Gal game series, though? Are you surprised the fact that it won't be on the PS4? Are you not surprised, though? Do you think Sony's policy may have prevented that? And if so, do you think Sony made the right call for their policy that prevented this game from coming on their system? Or do you think it was a dumb policy for Sony to do in the first place? What are your thoughts about this allegation against the creator of Rayman and surrounding the reason why he left Ubisoft and all that stuff? Do you think these allegations are true? Given the multiple allegations we've heard from Ubisoft lately, though, do you think they're not true at all? Do you think that he just retired because he was just burned out from working in the gaming industry for so long? Or do you think he may have been pushed out because of the allegations made against him? What are your thoughts about the situation with the PS5 and how some places, particularly in maybe like Ireland or in the UK, may not get their PS5 until like somewhere around 2021? Were you shocked by hearing this news? Are you not shocked at all? Do you think Sony could have done a better job in any way, though? Are you concerned that you could see that could be a problem for over here in the US or in other places? Could we see situations similar to what we saw with GameStop in Ireland, to be exact? What are your thoughts about Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity and some information that came out about it? Are you excited to pick this game up? Are you looking forward to getting what basically is a prequel to the Breath of the Wild with Hyrule Warriors style gameplay, though? Or is this one a complete pass for you, though? And what are your thoughts about the situation with CD Projekt Red now having to do crunch, basically to get Cyberpunk 2077 out on time, though? Do you think this was justifiable for them? Do you think they misled and lied to people about this, though? Do you think it is the right decision to split some of the profit they make to the game to the staff because of crunch? Do you think crunch is a very big issue for the gaming industry itself? And do you think this is an issue that does need to be addressed? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this YouTube video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!